Welcome to day 9. I'm so excited about day 9, geographers, because we are going to Africa today. And Africa really is so vast, so fascinating, so diverse. Let's begin to look at Africa today and all the riches that God has there. Will you please begin day 9 with me in a prayer? Dear Jesus, wow. Africa is so awesome. You are our creator, God. You have made a wonderful land in Africa, very creative animals. Some of our favorites are probably there. And then you've also helped us to learn to love you more through everything that you have made. Thank you for the vast and diverse people groups, all of the different people and tribes and nations throughout Africa. Help us to understand the majesty that you have in Africa, and bless our learning today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, a closer look at Africa. So to help us dive into this very diverse, beyond what we have yet thought of region, and by the way, the U.S. can fit into the continent of Africa a good 3 times the whole U.S. So thinking about that, Africa really, could be multiple continents. And to help us with that, we're going to divide it into 5 smaller regions, as you can see on the map here: North Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, and Southern Africa. And you can see all the coastlands that there are. I kissed the waves down in Africa. There really are a lot of coastlands, but there aren't a lot of ports, which we'll talk about in this lesson. The second point that I want you to write down, and yes, you should be writing notes. You should have Africa written largely on the top of your notebook page. So open that beautiful world geography notebook. If you haven't done that yet, pause this video, go get your notebook, open your notebook, and write down Africa and today's date. The second note to write down for today, and if you missed the first note, rewind the video and write down that first note about the 5 regions. The second note is to describe North Africa, which is Egypt, very ancient civilization, one of our ancient major civilizations, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco. Now, it is said that Northern Africa has more things in common in terms of culture with both the Middle East and Southern Europe than some of the other regions in Africa. So just interesting to look at some of the landforms being around the Mediterranean Sea like that, share some history and some trade patterns. Egypt is there, Libya is there, Algeria, Tunisia is that little country there, having a lot of Mediterranean coast, and Morocco, very close to Spain there, and Portugal. The third note to write down is we're going to talk about West Africa. West Africa has our famous Ghana, there on the Atlantic Ocean, Nigeria, Senegal, Togo, and Benin. And to review, the main language of Nigeria, for example, is English. So that might be a good first country to visit in Africa, because you don't have the language barrier that you will in some places. But English really is spoken in several different African nations when you look at it, in addition to some tribal languages as well. The fourth point to write down, Central Africa. Central Africa has the Congo, Rwanda, which you may have heard about. There's some difficulties there a few years ago. Sudan, still difficult for Christians in Sudan. In South Sudan, there are a lot of Christians. Fifth note to write down. Again, pause it if I'm going too fast. Pause it and write down your notes. East Africa has Kenya. It has a wildlife refuge, I know, there, with perhaps some of our favorite giraffes, elephants. Tanzania, Somalia, Ethiopia, and Mozambique. And I know, of course, close to our school, there's the Ethiopian restaurant. Ethiopia is one of the oldest places to have a continuous record of people living there. Coffee we get from Ethiopia, so that's a wonderful gift. And Ethiopia was one of the earliest places in Africa to know about Jesus and to have leaders following Jesus. There was the Ethiopian eunuch who was high up in Queen Candace's court, and early on, probably about 50 AD or